Hey guys, Crewman here, and a lot of people tell me that I should be using the 3090 for rentals, that it's a great GPU for rentals. Well, in today's video, I'm going to tell you why I don't think it is good for rentals. I frankly think it's not efficient at all, and if it was up to me, I would be selling this thing and buying 4090s or 5090s, and frankly, if it was just me, I probably would just be buying 5090s, as at least for now, this GPU costs basically the same as this GPU, which is really weird to say, but it's the reality we live in. So, like I said, in this video, I'm going to show you why you shouldn't be buying these for AI or for rentals. And I'm actually in the process of selling this one along with the other two that I have, because I can make more money selling it, and I can put that money towards another one of these. So let me tell you after a quick word from today's video sponsor about why I am doing this. Thank you to Crypto Miner Bros for sponsoring today's video. So if you're like me, then your power rate is just way too high for GPU mining. It's just frankly not viable anymore. And the same could be said for most ASICs. These days, an ASIC needs to be one or two things. It needs to be reasonably costed, or it needs to do something besides just mining crypto to be viable as a home miner. So Crypto Miner Bros has you covered on both those fronts. Their prices are shipped right to your door, so there are no hidden or unexpected fees. My personal favorite ASICs right now are the DG1 Home and the Canaan Avalon Mini 3 Bitcoin miner. And finally, I also like the BitAxe 601, as it's a neat gift to give yourself or a family member that gives you a chance to gamble a few bucks away in power costs per year for a very, very, very microscopic chance to win a BTC block. Don't forget to use the code KRUTMAN, K-R-0-0-T-M-A-N, for $70 off your next order. So thank you again to Crypto Miner Bros for sponsoring today's video, and if you're interested in buying ASICs, please go ahead and check them out and tell them KRUTMAN sent you. Alright, so in today's video, I am going to talk about why I don't like the 3090. We're going to start with the obvious thing to me, and that's the price. And then we're going to talk about the TDP of the 3090 versus the 4090 and the 5090. And then we're going to talk about how much the 3090 is currently renting for. Now, obviously, with anything in the rental market, those prices fluctuate greatly. But right now is considered a down point in the market, like a downswing. So you'll be able to see it basically at its worst compared to the 4090 and 5090. And in this video, I am literally only comparing these to the 4090 and the 5090 because, in my humble opinion, I do not think it is worth messing around with any other GPUs for anything but salad when the demand is high, and that's not very often, and that doesn't last very long. So we're talking about GPUs that you would consider buying for long term for solely the purpose of renting your rigs out. All right, so let's first talk about the price. Now, if you guys don't know, I have another YouTube channel called Crewman Tech. I'll put a link down below. Make sure you sub if you want non-rental related content that just refers to other tech and gaming and stuff like that. Basically, if you're not looking to make passive income with your computer parts, that channel's for you. Now, I've been tracking the used market since February of this year, when basically everything went to absolute shit. So you can see right here that you can see the 4090's price right up top on line 3, and then you can see the 3090 right down here. And you can see that the 4090 was at $2,200 and the 3090 was at $856. Now let's go through, and now you can see everything is going up, obviously, because everything's getting nuts. And the 3090 peaked in price in April for about $1,000. And you can see the 4090 was hovering between $2,100 and $2,200, right? Okay, now let's keep moving on. Now you can see we get to, let's go to July in the summer. Well, the 4090 is down to $2,070, and the 3090 is down to $788. So basically what I'm getting at is the 4090 hovered between $2,000 and $2,200. And remember, that thing MSRP'd for $1,600. While the MSRP 3090, which was $1,500, but was mostly at $2,500 plus for its lifetime when it was out of stock anyway, fell down to $788. And if we keep going, at the end, it moved down to $748. And currently, I know because I've sold a bunch. I think I've sold about 6 in the past month, and I have two left for sale. So if you want any, hit me up. That the 3090 is going for about $700 right now, $680 to $700. Not on eBay, so it's a little more on eBay. And the 4090 is still going for $2,000. So what I'm getting at is the 3090 is only going to keep going down in value, as the 4090 will stay the same, and the 5090 has finally gotten somewhere close to MSRP. You know, it's a $2,000 MSRP, and they can be had for about $2,300 right now. And I personally think that the 3090 is going to keep dropping in price, and the data kind of agrees with me, while I think the 4090 should stay the same, and frankly, I think the 5090 is actually going to go up in price. But that's for another video. But I just wanted to show you that when, with rentals, you're never going to ROI. Just pretend ROI doesn't exist, right? So if that's the case, then we want the most important asset in the rental farm, which is our GPU, to basically be a store of value. And the 3090 has proven that it is not a store of value as of now. Now, I obviously understand that we are talking about a over 5-year-old GPU at the time of this filming. I can't believe I'm saying that. The point of this video is for me telling you why you shouldn't buy a 3090. All right, so now let's see what it's renting for. All right, so I'm going to skip Salad as everything is basically dead right now. You're not going to find any rentals on Salad, and I'm not on there right now. Trust me, as soon as it becomes worth turning some rigs on again, you will know, as Salad is a partner of this channel, and I do provide sponsored content by them. So nothing's useful there, so we'll just skip Salad. Let's look at Chlor. You're looking at getting anywhere from 64 cents a day to like $1.21 a day. I'll pass on that. Now let's move to Octa.space, and we can see that, you can see what I filtered, and you can see that I'm going to try to 150.90 is making about 36 cents an hour. We've got 36 cents, 35, 4090s are making about 25, and the first 3090 is at 10 cents an hour. I see some at 11 and some at 8. Obviously, your mileage may vary, but, it just goes to show the difference. Now, let's go to Vast. So, here is Vast. And we've got the 4090 for 29 cents, the 5090 for 37 cents, the 3090 for 13 cents. Now, look, guys, I know that a lot of things go into factors for rentals, but what I'm showing you is essentially that the 3090 rents for basically like a third of the 5090 if you're lucky. And the most damning part, in my opinion, of why you should not mine with a 3090 or rent with a 3090 is its TDP. This thing is cranking out about 350 watts versus the 4090's 450 watts and the 5090's 500 and like basically let's just say 550, right? So let's just up it 100 for each one. So while it uses 200 watts less than the 3090, it also generates a third less of the rental profits. So its efficiency is trash on the rental market. And I know you'll say, well, Crewman, it generates a third of the rental, generates a third of the income because it's, a third of the price. And yeah, you can say they're about a third of the price. You can buy 3 3090s for $150.90 right now. But I think that efficiency is incredibly important, especially in something like rentals, where I don't think rentals is something that you'll see a lot of people build like 100 units of single GPU rigs to rent. Now, I'm not saying people won't do that, but I don't think, in my opinion, I think the rental market has much more long-term potential and much more long-term stability at the cost of scalability. It's really prohibitively expensive to shove 3 or 4, 24 gig cards into a single machine, especially when you consider how much VRAM is going to go through the roof. So for the purposes of this video, we're just talking one GPU to one CPU. So I do not think that it's worth it because, like I said, I think the TDP is damning, especially when you compare it to the 4090 and the 5090. So because of all of these factors, right, Essentially, I will not be using 3090s for rentals. Now, I have one 3090 that's somewhere over here that I keep for my testing area just so I have it for content. But other than that, I would not honestly buy anything that's not a 4090 or a 5090. Now, I know it's kind of rough to pay $2,000 for a GPU that's almost 3 years old, and I'm probably going to do a video on why I wouldn't buy a 4090 compared to a 5090. But I've had this one, and it's, if you own one, it's crazy not to use it in rentals because they're extremely profitable. And basically right now the only thing I would recommend is the 5090. It's the 5090 or bust. Now, maybe you could make a case for like the 5060 Ti. I know Max Voltage likes it, and I may buy one, but right now it does not make sense. And essentially, like I said, it is basically the 5090 or bust. And I know you see a 4070 Ti Super here, but that's for salad. And when it's not here, it's going to be off. So you can see the 3090 is no longer there. I plan on sticking to 4 rigs. I may expand to 5 one day. We'll see. But my goal would be to populate both of these with 5090s and run 3 5090s and a 4090. Anyway, that's it for this one. That is why I do not recommend that you buy an RTX 3090 for mining. I know it's tempting, especially considering their price point. I know I've sold a few of them to people for, AI rentals. Look, I'm not going to tell people how to spend their money, especially if they're giving me the cash, but I am going to educate all of you, in my opinion, on what I do not think is worth it for rentals, and that is the RTX 3090. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And thank you to Crypto Miner Bros for sponsoring today's video. I will be moving one of my BTC ASICs into this garage as I need to get some heat in here. Because I get no heat when these rigs are off, and the beauty of rentals is when they're not profitable, you just turn them off. Although, I will be moving these two to a different rental platform in a few days, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. Peace out.